Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Savage Goose Show. The show where we talk about all things Savage Worlds from the past week. And this time of year, there's a lot to talk about. And I am joined by Pete Saloom of Pear Tree Studio. He is no stranger to this channel. He's been on quite a few things. I think this is like the third or fourth live stream you've been on. Not to mention our TPK 101 podcast.
Yeah, I'm a frequent flyer here for sure.
Here. Yeah,
and I appreciate that. I enjoy it.
And if you don't know Pete Saloom, I don't know where you've been, because even if you haven't been here on the Savage Goose, you should have been somewhere, either on Reddit or on Discord, or looking at a Savage Worlds GM or on Banff podcast, because Pete is just absolutely everywhere. Not to mention you're going to be at conventions too. So if you don't know who Pete Saloom is, I don't know where you've been. You're living under a savage rock of some sort.
I'm out there.
He's got in more ways than one. No. All right. So as always, though, we're gonna have our main topic later today. We're gonna talk about Beacon Island for Savage Worlds, which is Pete's big project that he is currently kickstarting over on Kickstarter. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But first, as always, we're gonna go through the newsletter. We're gonna go through the new products. We're gonna talk about all the Kickstarters that are going on. We're gonna be brief this time because there's just so many Kickstarters to talk about. We're gonna spotlight our Ace swag spotlight, and we'll go from there. All right. So first off, the newsletter. So first thing that obviously Pinnacle is going to talk about is that the Pathfinder for Savage Worlds Carrying Crown campaign is going on currently on BackerKit. This is to get everything you need to run Carrying Crown for Pathfinder for Savage Worlds. This is the third adventure path that they have done. They've done. I'm running this one right now. Rise of the Rune Lords is the one I'm running right now. They've done the Crimson Throne. They've done Carrying Crown, and then they have also announced that I should say they've announced, more like Clint has stated on unofficially, sort of like half officially, that the next one after this is going to be Kingmaker. So if you're really if you know much about these adventure paths, you will know that these are pretty much like the best of all the adventure paths that they've done, and they're turning them into Savage Worlds products. I personally do not know much about them, except for that I hear the names mentioned here and there on different channels, different places. So, but it's exciting. If you're into a Pathfinder for Savage Worlds and horror, this is the campaign for you. I'm still working my way through the other ones, so I have through Rise of the Lord, so I still have some time to go before I have to worry about anything else. Not to mention, I have all these other games back here that I want to play first. So we'll talk about. Well, if you're interested in that, check it out. Additionally, the Foundry VTT marketplace has a Halloween sale going on right now, which has a bunch of Savage Worlds stuff that is on sale. So if you use Foundry as your virtual tabletop, you can get a bunch of resources for it on sale right now, 20% off until the end of the month. Actually, starting 26th, so I'm starting in 5 days and then ending on the end of the month. This includes several Deadlands things, including a kind of a little bit of spoiler for the next news item, a new Foundry VTT item for Night Train. You get the Weird West, you get the Holler, Rift stuff, Pathfinder Savage Worlds, Rise of the Rune Lords, and obviously the Adventure Deck and Adventure Edition and Horror Companion. Let's see here. Then obviously, like I said, next thing is that Foundry VTT now has the Deadlands Night Train. So if you're wanting to play Deadlands Night Train in your Foundry VTT, that's now available. Let's see Spotlight. Cool. Sorry, what was that?
That's cool. Night Train is very cool.
My brother-in-law tried running it for us, and we all died. So I don't think we're that far. I think we're in like Act 1 still. So
that's not so uncommon.
Yeah. It was like as soon as we ran into vampires, it was you're dead. We're dead. So not sure what we did wrong, but that's whatever. Licensee Spotlight. Dust We Inherit is another Kickstarter that will be ending soon. This is in a post-apocalyptic sci-fi world, and you're just trying to figure out kind of looking at what happened to humanity and all the different things that happened to them after the end of the world. So I went into this a little bit more detail last week. If you look at my last week's stream, and if you want more information, go check that out. So as we look at things to come, we have Risk for Savage Worlds reprint should be all finished up on their shipping. We have Europa and Bomb Northwest that are basically about ready to be sent out. I actually got I don't know what this is for, but I got a notification that I'm getting a package coming soon. I haven't got like through like USPS, and I don't know what it's for. So maybe it's one of these things. Delayed Colony, they'll be charging for shipping soon, so that's exciting. And then the Doomguard has late pledge coming out, as well as the final call for RPG PDF feedback. So if you have any feedback about the Doomguard PDF, this is your time to get in. And Dark Ages, they're currently doing late pledges, and they just opened up like yesterday. Any feedback you want to give for the PDFs, they sent out a draft PDF to all the backers, and you can use that to give any feedback on the product. So take a look at that. All right, so that is all the newsletter stuff. Let's go ahead and switch back over to next section we are going to talk about is some new products. So there's a few things that came out this past week. Nothing I'm going to spend too much time on. There was, as we come up here, we had a couple new adventures for the I forgot the name of this game already. It's a man. What's the name of this company? The Good, the Bad, and the Savage. Man, I always forget. The Good, the Bad. I knew it's the 3 one. So for the Good and Bad and Savage, there's you've got Blood of the Asek. I don't know if I can. You know how to pronounce that? Asequia.
I'll take that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah.
accept
Sure.
that.
And then we also got Thunder and Lies. So these are 2 adventures for the Good, the Bad, and the Savage, and additionally a few other products here. This is a quick start test drive for Savage Hunter. We'll talk about this later. This is a quick start to kind of get a feel for one of the Kickstarters going on right now. So it's a pay as you play what you want. Take a look at kind of what is coming from this product to get a feel for it. From the Adventurers Guild community, we've got for the gold piece settings. If you know anything about gold piece, it's essentially one piece, but for Savage Worlds and with all the the ID numbers filed off or whatever. And this is they release a bunch of different adventures for this kind of setting, and there's a lot to go with this, right? Like there's you look up all the stuff for Gold Piece, there is quite a bit of content for Gold Piece, which makes sense because One Piece itself is a lot of content. So, but if you're interested in getting more adventures, this is a new adventure that's been released, the Barcode Eidolon. Lastly, is Sleuth Squad Storytime Winter Trollderland. And this is not necessarily an adventure. You can kind of use it to make it into an adventure, but is actually just a story set in the idea of Sleuth Squad. And I think that, and part of this is like Christmas time, getting ready for Christmas, but also as part of it is to give you an idea of like what does a story in Sleuth Squad kind of look like. What is this? What's the feel that the author of Sleuth Squad is going for? So you can pick this up, read through the story. It's just a very short story, only 32 pages. So, yeah. Sorry, were you trying to say something?
Nope.
Yep.
Just looks cool.
Yeah. So take a look at that if you're interested. Again, this is from the Adventurers Guild community. Heading back over to our. I'll find it. There it is. There we go. So, in addition to new products, Crystal Heart is releasing their new comic book on November 25th. This is, if you're familiar with Crystal Heart, it started out with a webcomic series called Up to 4 Players, where for the most part they play board games, and it's chronicling the details of playing board games. At one point, they start playing Savage Worlds, and the one sheet piece of paper comic strip I give out to players when I go on my last convention is from these guys, and it just explains the rules in a comic book format, which is really cool, I think, and I really like it. It's really easy for people to kind of learn based on this like one sheet comic. Well, they did a whole entire series in their comic line where they're doing a comic about them playing in their setting called Crystal Heart, using Savage Worlds rules. And so they are both, you see them both playing with the rules, and you see them playing out the story. And you kind of get this cool interaction of both the elements of rolling dice and everything, and like failing their rolls and succeeding their rolls and trying to figure out new ways to do things because they failed, and also the actual story of the game, which is super interesting. Now they have released a setting book for Crystal Heart that kind of goes through the rules for how to do Crystal Heart, the setting itself, and play through that, so you can get that as its own book. But they are actually releasing through Dark Horse a comic book, like a whole collection of that web series, that web comic, into a physical book that you can purchase at places like Barnes Noble, Amazon, etc., stuff like that. So that's super cool to see like that kind of product that's going to be featuring Savage Worlds rules, and you can essentially like read through this and get the story, but also kind of learn how Savage Worlds is played, and specifically this setting of Crystal Heart through just this book that you're gonna be able to pick up at Barnes and Noble on the shelf. So that's super exciting to me. I'm super excited for it. And I'm looking forward to. I'm trying to decide if I want to pre-order it or if I want to like go try to get it in person somewhere. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's serious exposure for the game.
Yeah, for the Savage Worlds community, for for Crystal Heart, for Savage World. Yeah, I'm
national
like,
retailer. Yeah.
Again, and this is being published by a big comic district. You know, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dark Horse Comics, but they're a pretty big deal. I think they do I want to say they do the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic as well, or at least one of them, like one of the runs of that. So like, they're a big comic maker, a big distributor. I don't remember how big this particular book's going to be, and I did start reading through this webcomic a while ago. If I'm honest, I caught up, and so I had this problem when I catch up with the webcomic. I end up no longer paying attention because I caught up and I can't just binge through it anymore. So
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So I look forward to getting this in physical, and I'll definitely get this in physical format because I love the idea of, not just like, because Pinnacle also makes comics, web graphic novels that for Deadlands and such, and I'm looking forward to getting my copy through the Bobble for was it the Circle or something? I don't remember exactly what the name is called, but I want to get this as well. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. All right. So after that, we go into Kickstarters. Again, we are not going to go too deep into these. There's links down below to these. Take a look at them. If you want to hear more about them, you can go check out last week's stream or look at the streams where I do interview some of these people. So the Elven Emissaries, this is a small Kickstarter that's going to end on Thursday, October 23rd. I did talk about this last week. You got a couple days to back if you're interested. Check it out. Tales from Whitechapel. This is for the Gaslight Victorian Fantasy RPG, which does have a version for 5e. So if you are interested in, 5e and Savage Worlds, for 5e and Savage Worlds, I believe. Savage Worlds is what we're talking about, though. This also ends on Thursday, October 23rd. So in 2 days, again, take a look at that if you're interested in picking that up. Just to Inherit, this was the spotlight for Pinnacle's newsletter. This ends next Wednesday, the 29th. If you like sci-fi, you want to see post-apocalypse in space, check that out. And Pete, do feel free to stop me at any of these if you want to mention anything about any of these.
There's so many. We've got to get to them all.
Yeah. The Secret World. This is they've already done a Kickstarter for this before. This is particularly for a print run, like a traditional published print run, as well as for the book, but as also for some of the add-on items like cards and dice and stuff like that. So if you're interested in getting some more physical products for the Secret World, check out this Kickstarter. I believe they've already backed. They're all set there. So I have my personal physical copy from Draft RPG from a print on demand option. I'm very happy with that. But if you're interested in getting a nice, there's actually a really nice limited edition cover in this Kickstarter that I kind of wish I could get because it looks really sweet. It's like nice, like honeycomb texture and everything. Looks awesome. Carrying Crown started today. It ends on Friday, November 14th. Again, if you are interested in getting Carrying Crown for Savage Pathfinder, take a look at that. This is definitely going to be one of the best times to get it. And it is, just think, more horror. I think this is the closest they get to Ravenloft inside of Pathfinder. I could be wrong, but that's the feeling I get. It's like this is like their version of Castle Ravenloft or Curse of Strahd, whatever you want to call it. But different story, but the closest you're gonna get to like all this undead type stuff.
The art certainly evokes that.
Yeah, for sure. Ending on Saturday, November 15th, is the Scarred Lands Player's Guide for Savage Worlds. This is a product that goes all the way back to 3rd edition. You can, and they've done different versions. Aegis Studio is doing an adaptation through Onyx Path Publishing, through a license from them to adapt this into Savage Worlds. I still have my 5e copy from when I kickstarted the 5e version. Oh gosh, probably probably 8 years ago now, maybe 9 years ago now. A while ago. It was after 5e started, but yeah. So it was a while ago. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll be talking with Travis Liege from Aegis Studios in 2 weeks to talk about this particular project and all the things that are coming along with that. Hey, on Thursday, November 20th, is Pear Tree Studios Beacon Island for Savage Worlds.
That's right.
We could talk. We'll talk about that later. But we're just gonna move on because you're gonna do a deep dive into this real.
Yeah, no big deal. Skip it. Yep.
Yeah, no, just skip it. Savage Hunter from BPP Games. This is basically their attempt to kind of recreate the playstyle of the Monster Hunter franchise, but also with a legally distinct place. And it looks awesome. The artwork looks great. As you guys know, I really enjoy the Simply Savage Bestiary from BPP Games, particularly because of the design philosophy around the monsters. Now, I've already taken a look at the monsters in the quick start. It's definitely gonna be a little bit different. So I think it's still gonna be interesting. So I highly recommend that you stick around because next week we're going to be talking with BPP Games about Savage Hunter. So look forward to that next week. Chronicles of Aerith for Savage Worlds. This is going to start on Tuesday, October 28th. I am working on hopefully trying to find a time to meet with the creator of this project. Unfortunately, he's in the UK, so it's going to be a difficult time for us to kind of make that adjustment to figure that out. So we'll have to try to work together for that. But hopefully we can figure out time before the end of the Kickstarter to get together and talk about this project as well. And lastly, starting on Tuesday, November 4th, is going to be the Heart of Glass, which is going to be a mini campaign for Street Wolves. If you've heard me talk about Street Wolves, I really enjoy the aesthetic. I haven't played through it yet. Unfortunately, I wish I had. But there's just so many things to play, clearly.
Yeah.
That being said, I do really enjoy the aesthetic of Street Wolves. I've read through it, and I enjoy what I've read. And I look forward to hopefully someday playing through the Street Wolves. I specifically want to play through the Dead Hand campaign. But if you're interested in getting an additional campaign for Street Wolves, the Heart of Glass campaign starts on Tuesday, November 4th. So get into that. It's a mystery game, a little mystery mini campaign, and hopefully that will satisfy your needs for some Street Wolves action. All right. Last thing before we get into our main topic. So we got to talk about Sidewinder Recoiled. This is from Doghouse Rules. This is who has made some amazing projects like Cocaine Owlbear, right? That's them, right? I said that and I immediately said, wait, is that them? I'm pretty sure it's them. They definitely did a few other things, though. They did Dust Bunnies. I just got that.
Trailer Park Shark Attack.
Yeah, Trailer Park Shark Attack. This is a Death Bunnies, which is a little fun kid version, a kid game for Savage Worlds. But this here is Sidewinder Recoil for Savage Worlds. This is a more historic take on the West. This is not Weird West. It's not Deadlands. This is not The Good, the Bad, and the Savage. This is an attempt to be more historically accurate to the world of
American West.
The American West. It takes place in two different eras: the early frontier exploration era, and then the later era where everything's kind of been settled. There's settlements out there. There's these cities run by by sheriffs and judges and all that sort of stuff. And there is a lot of detail in here. So last week we talked about the these professional edges, they call them. But this week we're going to talk about kind of the stuff that you get in this book. For instance, one of the things that we have here is a timeline milestone, like things that happen. And we also have there's a bunch huge, you can see this, like a huge timeline of different events, when different things happened, when different weapons came out. So you get a lot of history in this book. And with that also comes, one of the goals is to be a more historically accurate game. Is that some of the weapons in here, they kind of said, hey, based on here's the weapons and when they came out and what you would have available to you based on when you're setting your game.
Right.
Trying to remember where it is. I'm trying to look through this right now. There's this wonderful thing called a table of contents that would probably help me exactly know exactly where to go. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so if you go here, we can have the Collier revolver was actively being used between 1819 and 1824. The Derringer pocket pistol from 1831 to 1868. And they give you all these items, when they be used, and a lot of historic detail about the kind of things that you would when you would see these weapons. Now, they're not giving all the stats in these entries because for the most part they just want you to use the simpler. They don't want to overcomplicate it too much. but they are giving you some information on how to like flavor it to make it more historically accurate, make it easier for you to run your game and not feel like, oh wait, I have to go look to at an actual history book to figure out how to do this. So yeah, if you want to play a more historical accurate Western game, this is what you're gonna be looking at. Okay, so take a look at this. I've got this one, the player's guide, and I've got the Cartier's Expedition, which is a small adventure. It's a big adventure, maybe a mini campaign book that goes through Cartier's Expedition. So take a look at that.
Yeah, I'll just say Doghouse Rules is a great publisher to support, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't get any kickbacks for saying that, but everything they make is really top notch.
I had to double check if I was right about the layout. The person who did the layout, I was. Yep. If you know who one of the best people who does layout in the business, especially around Savage Worlds, is Carl Kiesler, and he is the layout guy for this one. Every time I see something, I'm like, man, this is really well laid out. It ends up being Carl. So
you'll see that name over and over again.
All right. Well, with that, I think we are good to kind of get into the heart of things. So welcome again. If you're just joining us, welcome to Savage Goose. We are talking with Pete Saloom of Pear Tree Studios to talk about Beacon Island, which is a new setting for Savage Worlds. Hi, Pete. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
So here's a little picture of the product we're trying to talk about. Just start us off by telling us give me as best you can. Try to give me a really short pitch on what this is about.
Okay. What I like to describe it as is a sandbox style adventure or a mini setting for Savage Worlds. The reason I make that distinction is I don't want to compare it in scope to some of the more vast settings that a lot of Savage Worlds fans are used to. And like Deadlands or something like that. But I do want people to understand that it is more than just a 3 to 5 act adventure. There is room for a lot of growth. It's set in 1998 on a fictional island off the coast of New England. It is nostalgic in a way to the time when I was a kid of that age, but I've tried not to be super heavy-handed with the nostalgia. I think that if you were to change the date from 1998 to 1988, everything would survive. In terms of the mechanics and the way the game ran. Pick a slightly different soundtrack when you run it, maybe. But that's about it. So basically,
the soundtrack is now Danger Zone.
Yeah, right. Yes, you've had to back up. 10 years. But yeah, so the elevator pitch is you play kids. You are on this island. You are starting to uncover some unique mysteries and conspiracies, and it's time for you to make choices through the lenses of young teenagers who have, kind of unique sets of priorities at that stage in life, and see what unravels. So it's a big departure from my previous published works.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
But that's on purpose. This is a little off topic from your question, but one of the reasons Savage Worlds is an excellent rule system for creators like myself who are licensees is I have the ability to hop from genre to genre or make up my own while staying within the same core rules and kind of not having to burden myself with learning brand new systems or creating my own. So it gives you that toolkit and that flexibility.
No, that's one of the reasons why I love Savage Worlds. I get to play all my genres, all my tones, all my play styles.
Yep.
The one game system.
One-stop shop.
Tweak a few things here and there, and we're good to go. And I should say, I say tweak a few things. I mean, tweak a few things that are meant to be tweaked, not tweak a few things like people do. They try to tweak something to make it fit into something else. And say, no, Savage Worlds is meant to be tweaked. There's places where it's purposely built so it can be tweaked, and
Yeah,
still
there's a difference
work.
between tweaking and shoehorning.
Mm,
And I don't feel that with Savage Worlds you have to shoehorn a mechanic into your game. I feel that if you really found some particular mechanic in the core rules that did not fit the type of gameplay you were trying to create, you could just omit it and it wouldn't be so load bearing that the rest of the mechanics wouldn't survive. So,
right.
yeah, just another reason I like this rule system.
It's great. All right, so let's before we get into a little more of the mechanics of things that I have questions about, let's talk a little more about the lore real quick. I'm
Okay.
gonna ask you a few more questions about this. Now you said that this takes place on an island off the coast somewhere in New England. I don't think that you're not really specifying where because it doesn't really matter.
I'm purposefully vague. It could be anywhere coastal New England from Rhode Island to Maine,
Yeah.
anywhere.
Is there a particular reason the characters are on this island, or is there something that would is drawing the characters to this island?
So for the purposes of the adventure that
Mhm.
was written here, the adventure is called Lonesome Power. The kids find themselves finishing up a week at Windy Pines Summer Camp, which is
Okay.
located on the island. And that is the purpose that brings them together there on the island, and allows the sort of beginning circumstances of the narrative to unfold.
Mhm.
Um, I would also say, though, that that is only one avenue to introduce Beacon Island, because we've expanded it. Originally, I was only going to publish just another adventure.
Mhm.
Um, and I was playtesting this at conventions all around the country. And it became very evident from feedback and chatting with other people that if you're going to develop this much of this island and this much lore and this many locations, why not also give that to the game master and the players in the book and say, run the adventure, it's great, or use the tools we're giving you to make your own thing, or even better, combine the two and make something great out of both of them.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
that's where the mini setting label comes in.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we've seen that before in Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds has plenty of mini settings.
Yeah.
Throughout. So that's makes sense. So the most likely reason that most people are going to probably start their players out on this island is this summer camp. Is there any other locations you've developed that would make sense for players to come together on this island? Or is that like really the main reason that people would come to this island is for the for the mini campaign or for the campaign and or the setting for the summer camp?
No, you could leave the summer camp out completely if you chose to. So we're going to provide a complete map of the island
All
with
right.
locations highlighted and a key. There are multiple locations on the island. We're also going to provide a detail map of Port Town, which is the town in the
Mhm.
island where the ferry services to the mainland. It serves as sort of the tourist center of the island. The rest of the island is a little bit more remote, typical of coastal islands here, where you've got sort of the beach on the eastern side, facing the Atlantic. You've got some typically conservation land or forest land in the center, and then you've got random other features that are on islands in New England. Islands in New England are known for big time for lighthouses, but also
Mhm.
for historic military installations and gun batteries, locations of shipwrecks, all sorts of other things. So we provide a map with that, and it would be, in my opinion, an easy lift for a GM to say, nope, we're going to have, all these PCs are going to be, they're going to meet at the beach, or they were all on a school trip to the lighthouse for history class, or any other, they're at the amusement park with their family and something unfolds. So
So
there's
there's an
there's
amusement park.
plenty of room for that. Oh yes, super fun family land is the highlight amusement area of Port Town,
There you go.
and there's lots of cool '90s stuff going on there.
Love
Very
it. Love it.
sketchy rides.
All right. So That's kind of the premise of the setting. I'm currently
Yes.
working on a video about genre and tone and play style that should be coming out later this week. And so my question is going to lead into, partially because I've been working on this video, but like, what is the feel of this game? Like, how is it, what's the expectation of how it's going to play? Is it more serious? And I think we kind of talked about this before, as far as like, your inspiration. You have Goonies and Super 8 and like other kind of Kids on Bikes type stuff.
Yeah.
Well, what does it lean towards? Does it lean more towards like the feeling of Goonies, or the more gritty, dark feeling of like Super 8? Or is it more cartoony that I didn't mention?
So here's what I experienced through running it for many, many hours at conventions.
Mm-hmm.
What I decided early on was I'm going to give all of these folks that have come to play this game um, a an archetype pre-generated character that fits into a tropey stereotype of some 90s kid, and I 100% expect the silliness that comes along with that.
Sure.
And that's great, and it is entertaining, and it's cause for handing out bennies, and everybody's laughing, and we're playing songs on our phones and all that. So there's that feel at the table. What I try to do, and your mileage may vary as different
Mm-hmm.
game masters out there. What I try to do is I say, okay, let the players do that. I'm personally going to lean into the mystery and the darker mystery of it with my
Okay.
own personal behavior as the GM. And what I feel happens there is it definitely doesn't stop people from, playing their character to the max and having a good time, but it provides balance, which is, hey, we're crazy kids and we're saying the funny thing, but oh yeah, I'm also like a 13-year-old kid, and I'm separated from my parents, and this weird stuff's going on, and they start to pick up on that from my narration and my just my process at the table.
Right.
And so you start to get this like, yeah, I'm a goofy kid, but oh, I'm also like kind of worried about what's going on. And it made some really enjoyable moments where you could see people were having to step outside of themselves and get into their character a little more than maybe sometimes they would.
Sure.
Now, if you wanted to run this like Zoinks Scooby-Doo silly cartoon, there's nothing stopping you from that.
Well,
You could absolutely achieve that.
I was actually going to say, because Scooby-Doo actually, like, depending on which series of Scooby-Doo you watch, it does have variations of silly. Like, I think I'd say the original series is probably actually somewhat in the middle between a couple of other versions. Then you have like What's New Scooby-Doo from like the 90s. That was a little more silly, but still like fairly in the same vein. Then you have like the dark one, like Mission Incorporated. That was like pretty serious. I mean, it had people dying in it, unlike some of the other series that Scooby Doo has done. Then you have like some of the like the more lighthearted stuff, like was it Scooby and Shaggy Get a Clue, something like that.
Mm.
So like the vibe I've been getting based on what your description is, but a little bit from the art, a little bit from what you described, is something more along the lines of Mission Incorporated, where it's got these serious elements. There's these serious things that are dangerous, but also it's still Scooby-Doo and they crack jokes, right?
Yeah, so this is a good segue into what are my pop culture,
Yeah.
film influences, right? You want to discuss
Yeah.
that?
Go for it. I mentioned it a little bit already, but you can definitely dive in a little bit more detail.
Real quick, I just want to point out in the chat, I see that DM Tales came over to check out the stream tonight, and I was recently introduced to him, and I just want to say hello and thanks for coming over and supporting. That's really kind of you. Yeah, so basically, if I had to just name a handful of things, it really comes from a sum total of kind of everything, that I've consumed over the years. But if the big things for this particular project, I would say, are movies like The Goonies, movies like Dreamcatcher, Super 8, even more silly, youthful sci-fi stuff like Men in Black, things that have that youthful throwback weird sci-fi mix to them.
Vinkel says, "Is it more?" He says, "So more Scooby than Buffy." Is that okay? What would you say to that?
Oh, I don't know what. That's a difficult answer for me because I think that one of the design caveats that I had going into this was to be able to offer flexibility in it. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't hammer one tone
Okay.
into the adventure. You'll see, well, if you back the project, you'll see in the book that there are sidebars throughout where I'm just writing, from my own GM experience. Hey, I had fun when I did it this way and got this reaction. And again, like I said before, your mileage may vary. You've got
Right.
different play groups and different play styles. I really like to see when other game masters play things that I've written because I learn a lot more about the way I present the information when I
Mm-hmm.
see that, because it's always a different interpretation. So I try to purposely make it so that if you wanted to play this quite gritty and dark, you could get there. I'm not saying it's going to be like really R rated or anything like that. It's not That's not its intent. Um, but you could do that, or you could go to the other end of the spectrum and be quite silly, and it all stands up, either way.
Sure. Right. Okay. So I think that actually leads us really well into what I want to ask about next. Is one of the things that when I look at a setting
Mm.
for Savage Worlds, one of the first things I turn to. I think I had this conversation with JM a while back. One of the first things I like to do is I like to look at the setting rules.
Mhm.
So, which setting rules are you using from? I should preemptively ask one question, and that is, what do you need to play this? Is it just the adventure, the core rulebook, or do you need like the fantasy companion or horror companion or some other companion to go along with it?
No, you don't need anything except the core rules.
Perfect.
Um, I, without going on too much about that, I one thing that I take pretty seriously is low barrier to entry
Hmm.
for gaming. And so as soon as I start saying, well, you need this book and also that book and this book, and this is no slight towards the compendiums. They're awesome. I have all of them. You should check them out. There's
Yeah.
useful stuff in there. I want to make sure the stuff that I'm working hard to get out there in front of people is affordable, easy to get, and basically provides you every single thing you need to play except the core rule book and some dice.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
I
All
try to
right.
keep it as simple as possible.
So you just need the core rules. So what setting rules from the core rules do you use? And is there any setting rules that you're adding in yourself?
So I have not created a new setting rule for Beacon Island. The setting rules provided in the core book seemed to span, what I needed. So I didn't need to reskin something that's already there. The setting rules I suggest you use, don't
Yeah.
if you don't want to, are
Yeah.
are conviction,
Mhm.
creative combat. I think is an important one. I would actually kind of strongly urge you, or say yes, you must, if I can say
Interesting.
that,
Okay.
use this. And I also suggest the heroes never die setting rule. The reason for this is I like to think that when we're narrating, in the context of 12 and 13 and 14-year-old kids, that we're not murdering them. They're just getting way too freaked out for what's going on and running home and can return to the adventure at a later time.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So okay. So man, I've noticed a surge, if I'll say, of creative combat use. And I've actually like in products. And I think actually in the City Guard Chronicles, I think technically that is one of the setting rules that they say to use. And if you've been watching the stream, you know I like City Guard Chronicles. I've actually never ran it though. With I've never run creative combat.
So
Um,
I run it half the time, probably.
okay.
I don't always run it. Um, I it I think what happens is, specifically with this setting and the subject material that we're using, where there really are no what I would call super combat focused characters, like solely combat focused 13-year-old kids,
Sure. Maybe
it,
one of them learned jujitsu, but that's about it.
right. Yes, there is some of that. Yes, but there's not, a tactical special ops
Right.
kid. And I think what it does is it draws everybody into the combats in a more interesting way, and can create some fun and some excitement there.
Yeah, and I imagine combat isn't like a core part of the gameplay loop of Beacon Island either.
It's there. It's there in every session. It feels different. It does not feel like the combats I run in Shadows of the Sacred Hills or in the Icelian Hybrid or in any other type of game. It's far more take that. Here's what I'm doing. I just need to do this to get out of trouble and get out of this situation type of combat. There's really never this like, okay, we're gonna kill that person, type of scenario that we land ourselves in. But
Right.
that's not to say that I haven't spent a lot of time and energy trying to make sure the feeling of tension is very real still, without that level of kind of graphic violence.
All right, cool. So no new setting rules. Using a few setting rules from the core rulebook. I assume because everyone's just human, there's no new races involved, new ancestries.
Not 4-player characters.
Not 4-player character. Okay, interesting. When it comes to, are you interested in any new hindrances or edges in this?
So far, no. And I'm thinking it's probably staying that way. And the reason for that is I looked into it. I spent some time on it. I even drafted some. And at the end of the day, when I went back over them, I found I was reskinning something that was already available in core. And so it didn't seem like a value add. It seemed like it was taken up copy and it was already available to somebody with an imagination and the core rulebook. So I pulled them out for purposes of, being streamlined and keeping things clear and easy to understand. It's just one less thing that I'll get people tripped up on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's something. One of the things I've talked to other creators about, other Central's creators, is that they find that oftentimes they don't need to create more because there's plenty of edges in the core rulebook that you can just use and it makes sense. And sometimes they'll go to create an edge and they'll realize, oh wait, this is really just this, but with extra steps, or it's just a worse version of this for whatever reason, and it just makes more sense just to leave it as is and just not create extra stuff and let the core rulebook kind of shine in its ability to be adapted to so many different kinds of games.
Yeah, okay. Regarding hindrances, we in early play tests, we toyed with every PC having the young hindrance. And because they were all kids, so that sort of seemed like a low-hanging fruit, like maybe that makes sense. But then I actually understood that the young hindrance in core Savage Worlds is supposed to indicate that you are much younger than the rest of your party.
Right.
And so if everybody is 12 and 13, you don't have the young hindrance. So if you were to take the young hindrance, you'd have to be 6 or 7, or something like that for it to have the same sort of relative difference.
Right. So meaning that they can take the young hindrance now.
Sure.
Like players could take the young hindrance, but then you're dropping down.
But that means you're going to be somebody's little brother
exactly
that got stuck here and missed the boat back and needs to be cared for, or something like that.
Which sounds great. Which sounds awesome.
That's great. I'm all for that, but we just removed that from the character creation section and said, no, just do your own hindrances. Everybody's young, but it isn't a thing.
Also, it means that everyone only gets 3 bennies, not 4.
Yep, that's big. Yeah.
Okay, so you said that there's no ancestries for player characters. I assume then there's. I would assume, but correct me if I'm wrong. I assume there's no arcane backgrounds for player characters as well.
There are no arcane backgrounds for player characters in this set. Nope.
That makes sense to me.
There is some language and mechanics around some powers.
Okay.
But the way those are interacted with is almost exclusively through electronic devices. And that, without giving too much away, is sort of triggered at various points in the narrative.
Sure. Cool. All right. So next let's talk about what's available to the game master. Vinkel
Sure.
is asking, is there any plot point, adventure, and or random mystery builder? So the first thing we'll just say is, hey, like, yes, you said there is going to be an adventure. In
Yes.
this, approximately how long would you say this adventure is?
So, and again, probably fourth time I've said this, your mileage may vary. It's going to be 5 chapters. I see each of those as potentially one session, or maybe 1 to 2 sessions. I know people play different amounts of times, and GMs run at different paces. So, so yeah, if you're playing 2 hours, I would say this is more like 10, 12 sessions probably. So that's getting into sort of campaign play. So the nice thing about this is I've run it both ways. At conventions, I've always run Beacon Island as one-shot adventures that are standalone. Of the 5 acts that are in the Lonesome Power adventure included in Beacon Island, I think all of them could be one-shots, standalone one-shots, if you wanted to, and maybe tweaked a couple of things in the introduction to make it so. So yeah, so you get that as the adventure. I hope that answers that part of his question. The other thing is you get what's called the Lightkeeper's Guide, which is basically, I've divided the book into 3 parts. The Kid's Guide, which is the player-facing information. The Lightkeeper's Guide, I'm calling our game master the Lightkeeper because lighthouses are a big deal over here, and that's what people who man the lighthouse are called. And then you've got the adventure section. So in the Lightkeeper's Guide, you've got, first of all, a guide to the various factions that are on the island. So there are some mundane factions that you would think about, like tourists. How do tourists act? How do the townies act? The people who actually live in the town, how do they interact with the tourists? How do these guys treat kids? You know, like what's their position on that? And then there are other factions that are revealed as well, and how do they interplay with the other factions on the island? Another thing game masters get that helps them is what I'm calling the strange history of the island, and is essentially a timeline of events that goes back approximately 150 years and sheds light on the mysteries provided in the Lonesome Power adventure, but also provides adventure seeds for doing anything else you might want. A gazetteer, so that's going to give you the sort of popular places and people of Port Town and the rest of the island. It's going to describe those places. I sprinkled in various little seeds that, you know, some of them I just put them in and said, I think this is a little hook somebody could run with. And it's not for me to develop, but this might be something that you can take and turn into something yourself. There is an encounter generator as well. I think that was maybe part of that question.
Yep. Is there a random mystery builder, is what I said, but an encounter generator? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that it builds a mystery, but it helps build. You know, we've helped to build encounters based on location on the island, and also encounters based on weather. This is New England, so there's weather always plays a factor. So that's all available to you, randomly generated through drawing playing cards. And then obviously we provide just the physical visual aids, which would be maps of the island, maps of the town, maps of other important locations, table tents, both blank and with pre-generated characters on them, character sheets, both blank and with the pre-gens on them. We're working on digital printable figure flats for the pre-gens, NPCs, bestiary, and anything else any other asset that we can use to create a figure flat. So that's my biggest focus as a creator for Savage World is giving the GM the tools to go run a great game, because I think that's what I appreciate the most. Is if I know the rules and you hand me something and say this is everything you need to go run, and I can actually get through it and say yes, it was. and it was where I needed it to be, and I could find the information, that to me is a plus, in terms of putting the product together. So I spend a lot of time focusing on that.
All right, great. I think you mentioned pretty much everything I was going to ask about, like information, just locations. I guess it's here essentially. Did you mention? I'm gonna call it a bestiary, but like a monster list or a list of people that things you're fighting.
Yep. So we are going to include a bestiary. It's not huge, but it's necessary because we started getting creative with what was being encountered, and it warranted more than a quick one sentence description in the adventure text. So we're building them all out. We will have some art for some of the for many of them, and so that'll be a small bestiary. Very interesting stuff. Actually, there's a cool image of something pretty crazy there on the screen. So yeah, it gets wild, as you can tell by the art. This is a really good time for me to just shout out Lynn Redder, who is the artist on this project. She has done 100% of the artwork for Beacon Island, from the maps to everything that you've seen on the Kickstarter page and everything that's on the screen now. Incredible artist, and really, great person in the gaming industry to work with. So that's been a
looks
pleasure.
Great. Looks really cool.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to that. All right. I realized one of the questions I should have asked earlier when talking about like the lore, genre, tone, that kind of thing. We mentioned a few inspirations for your game. You mentioned Goonies, mentioned Super 8, Dreamcatcher, I think you mentioned, which I'm not familiar with. I'll have to look that up later. But yeah, who are the baddies? Are the baddies supernatural? Are they people? Are they, what? Who are the bad? Like I don't want to know exactly who the baddies are, because obviously that ruins the mystery. But it's like, what is the kind of baddies that we're looking at?
Yep. So the answer to your question is yes. So we are dealing with bad actors among us, people. We are dealing with government conspiracies and secret agencies. We're dealing with local sort of secrets and corruption in a small town. That's all just human stuff.
Right.
But we're also dealing with enigmatic, mysterious, otherworldly intelligence that is being slowly uncovered by the kids as they start picking up on these odd occurrences around the island. There's a great example. That's not normal. So that is, we're calling that the Energy Hound. I really love the artwork on this. And this is essentially a extraterrestrial being, creature, that is being controlled by that control collar on its neck, and it's being used as a bloodhound, basically, to hunt out other extraterrestrial or otherworldly energy. It's used as basically a hunting dog, and of course we put a taser on its tail because, as you do,
it's something that's non-lethal, like you can use against kids. So,
yep, that's a piece of it. Yeah.
So cool. All right. So we are getting some monsters in here. I mean, we got some some other art here of some of the kind of characters we can see in the game. One of the things I actually really enjoyed is the girl with the beanie hat, because I don't know why, but that, of all the characters, for some reason that one strikes me as the most 90s. I don't know why.
It just feels that way. The flannel, the baggy jeans, the skateboard. So these are all this is artwork for the pre-gens that come with the adventure. They're obviously quite stereotypical in their presentation. Another thing that is important is their stuff. Like all the kids have some kind of stuff. The guy on the left's got his handy cam. You see a Polaroid camera. There's a clarinet, a skateboard, a football, and even the guy on the right, that preppy gentleman, there's got an old school pager on his belt. So all that stuff, plays a role, and we have some helpful tables included in the GM section. Um, the artist says that's where it came from, so maybe that's why it was so well conveyed.
I was thinking that it reminded me of a character on Recess that
I don't remember that.
You don't remember there was a TV show called Recess? You remember Recess, the TV
No.
show? Okay. It might have been like early 2000s technically. I don't remember if it was 90s or early 2000s. But the show called Recess was on ABC, Disney, about these kids who went out and played Recess, and it was like the society of these elementary kids and all the things that they had to go through and all the cliques and everything and all the things that was going on. And one of the characters, one of the main characters, was a girl that had a being like that and was like a skater girl type person. So
Perfect.
And so just kind of that's part of the reason why I was like, yep, the girl with the beanie hat with an attitude is definitely like an archetype in the I'll say the 90s, early 2000s for sure.
Yeah, and we provide a long list of archetypes in the player section in the kids guide to try to just give people inspiration to get started.
Spinelli, that was who it was.
Oh, is that the name? Okay.
Yeah.
I think that might have been after I'm a little older than you.
That's true.
So I might have missed that one, but it sounds about right to me.
97. It came out in 97. So.
Oh, okay. No, then that's like kind of.
I know what you're doing, Mike. You're just missing out. That's all. They even had a movie. They had an in-theater movie and everything.
All right, I'm gonna Google it after. Maybe I did watch this, and it's just one of those things that got lost.
just filter out for sure. Cool. Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely. I mean, as a millennial, I'm obviously because I just feel that this is such true of all millennials. We are inherently nostalgic, and I think you're doing a great job of like kind of capturing that nostalgia. Well, especially with the art, the design, the art is definitely doing a great job. So great job, Lynn, on kind of capturing that nostalgic. I've been feeling particularly nostalgic lately. I'm just like, I would love to go back to the 90s or even like the late 80s, which I wasn't even born yet. I'm like, yeah, I could go back there.
Yeah, so. I mean, the thing with the nostalgia thing is, I'm always going to write what I like and what makes me feel good. So obviously that's, this is part of that, but I also want to be careful not to like beat other people with what my feeling of nostalgia is. So I think that and a lot of this is through Lynn's art is I think we've been able to present it in a way that is, there's no doubt what we're thinking, where our, perspective is on this, but it's not what you have to enjoy Lonesome Power or to enjoy the adventure or the setting. The vast majority of people that I've run the game for, which I've run it for probably over 100 people, related to the 1990s in some sort of positive nostalgic way, but some didn't. And some, only a couple, were not even born and had to ask questions about like what was a Sony handy cam, and things like that.
They're still around. What are you talking about? You still have those.
That we were Googling stuff at the table and explaining things. Another thing we included was I forgot to mention this. In the front of the book, we include a QR code to a Spotify playlist that we call it, suggested listening to set the mood.
Can you just send that to me now and I'll post to the chat?
I believe I can, if I can pull it up here.
Yeah.
And so, that's just a fun thing that's easy to do. And, maybe somebody will throw it on their phone or their Bluetooth when they're running the game and find it fun.
So one of the things that we kind of touched on was the tech, right? Each of these are the stuff these kids have. Because they also, it's the 90s. Not every kid has a cell phone, let alone a cell phone that can do all the things our cell phones can do today. And that's one of the things that I think actually, like, it's part of me that almost wonders if I wouldn't enjoy running a kids on bike game set in the modern day, because just things are different. Yeah, things are a little bit different now. but also like you can kind of like by setting it into like the the 90s or the 80s, you can kind of remove that tech reliance and kind of make it so that, oh, you want to research this thing, you need to go to the library so you can go research this. You have to go do stuff. You can't just all do it from that device on your phone.
Yeah, that's the thing, is because in the 90s, we did not feel that way. We felt like we had the highest tech
Oh yeah,
gear that nobody could imagine,
we have home computers.
Yeah, and we were impressed and proud of that stuff, and we felt we were more connected than ever. So there is a big gadget and electronics focus in this adventure, and it plays a big part because that played such a big part in society at the
Yeah,
time. But the other great thing from a game master's point of view is the technology was not so great that your players became kind of super powered by having it, right? Like
yeah,
an important part of controlling a game in a way where you're trying to create and evoke the adventure you want to evoke
mm-hmm.
is to isolate your party. And that doesn't mean you have to like lock them in a room or something like that. It
Right.
means you have to sort of offer full agency to the players sitting at the table without offering infinite capability to the characters
Right.
in the game. Yeah. So so it actually just kind of works out that these guys have technology and they're using it, but they can't actually just satellite phone a helicopter to come in, pick them up, and take them home.
Yeah, that was one of the things I struggled with running East Texas University, is that also my players wouldn't go to go to the library to go research things or anything. They just go, oh, I'm just gonna use my phone to read this. I'm like, but you should go to the library because there's cool characters there that you can interact with, that kind of thing. So it like having them be able having to not like have technology but not being able to rely on it like for because it's also like information itself. It's like it's controlling the information the characters kind of get along the way too, especially in a mystery game where you want that element of you need to go find more clues, you need to investigate stuff, you need to go out and figure out what's happening.
So what we did with technology and electronics in Beacon Island is we make it so that the technology works, but very early on you realize that it may not be reliable, or it may not be secure, and so you most of your characters will not be totally trusting the payphone on the side of the street, that nobody else is listening to their conversation, or they might not totally trust the way their pager is performing at this time. So there's tables included in the adventure that sort of interact with electronics at certain stages and create various complications and situations to occur.
All right, I have to ask. I'm looking through this playlist. What were your criteria for what songs got into this playlist?
Let me go look real quick.
Because
This is gonna be like quite shameful to me, I'm sure. Let me just take a look.
I mean, I'm like looking through here. I'm like, man, I'll be honest. Like, there's a lot of these songs I don't know.
So okay, so every single one of these songs I know, and I like. Some of them I'm embarrassed that I like, but I do like them, and I think all of them capture evoke a feeling that is very of my youth.
Okay.
I go back to summertime memories in my head when I hear these songs, and I also put some in that are just clearly have some kind of supernatural
Okay, sure.
theme twist to them as well. Yeah.
Vinkel, I'm sorry, there is no Weird Al on this list. Sorry.
Hey, feel free to add your own.
Yeah.
Weird Al certainly has a place here.
The one song to me, there's only one song I'm like, I feel like should be on this list. And no, you do you. There's one song I'm like, this feels like this should be on here, and that's "Smells Like Teen Spirit" by Nirvana.
Yep, totally valid. Can completely be there. Yep.
So, Sorry, I just wanted to say that like on side menu. I was just looking at this
I
list.
also just didn't want to make it like 100 song
Oh
list either.
yeah. You should start adding every single iconic like top 190 song. It's just going to be so long for sure. All right. Okay. Cool. So I'm going to give like kind of like my last question. I think this is my last question, and unless I find out there's something else I want to ask you about.
Okay.
Who do you feel like this game is for?
Oh, good question. I feel like this game is for somebody out there who wants to run a game that might be a departure from some of the more common themes and genres that are available. Although I'm not the only person to do kids getting into trouble. It's out there. It's just less represented. Um, I think it's for somebody who wants to have the flexibility to either use it as campaign play and run a session, or wants to use it as standalone one shots on game nights when they can fit it in, because scheduling is hard with people. Um, the other thing is, I've been kind of blessed in the last 2 years to meet a bunch of people who buy my products and are a fan of the way I organize the information and kind of try to focus on the game masters getting into the game and not being burdened down by searching for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I feel that one for sure.
My opinion is, okay, well, there's other people out there, and if they weren't into weird West stuff with shadows, and maybe they weren't into sci-fi survival with Icelian hybrid, here's another genre. There's something for everybody. So, and next project, will be something different.
Well, there's a question. Yeah, so I'm now realizing there is a few other questions I want to ask.
Okay.
So that's good. That was good though. Well, I'm leading off that question instead of like jumping to the other questions I have. Do you plan on trying to expand Beacon Island in the future, or do you said you have? I think you said you have more ideas for projects you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
What's the future of either Beacon Island or Pear Tree Studio?
So, okay. So the state of things today is we are just over 50% funded on Beacon Island in our first day. I'm, optimistic and hopeful that we fund this and make Beacon Island a reality. And should we do that, and once it is fulfilled, I think that the story will continue to be told, because there's a lot more room for one sheets and expansion and looking at different modifications to Beacon Island as we move forward. I fully intend to do that should we be able to kind of get this thing off the ground. In terms of Pear Tree Studio, I'm already working on other projects. In fact, last week I launched, kind of very quietly, I launched a one sheet that is related to Shadows of the Sacred Hills, in that it is a one sheet that takes place in the same town, which is called Blackwood Gulch. And my plan is to release about one of those a month for the next year, to sort of expand the lore on Blackwood Gulch, because that's been a constant request is, when are we going to get more details on that town and other adventures and things like that? So working on that. And I have another larger project that I'm just getting started on outlining and working in here. And that one is going to go back into space and be a very different flavor of sci-fi than what you're really seeing represented out there in Savage Worlds completely, and kind of in TTRPGs at large.
So. Cool. All right. I think I am done with my question. So the last thing I guess my actual last question is there anything that I did not mention that you want to mention?
The real thing I want to do is thank a couple people, if you don't mind, because this, I come on and talk, and I also take all the credit, and this doesn't happen just by me sitting here talking to you. I do a lot of the writing and a lot of the communication, and I go all over the place and play games, but that's fun to me. I have had incredible support, not only from my team for this project, which is Lynn Redder, the artist, and Carl Kiesler um, doing layout and trade dress and some
So we
graphic
mentioned
design
Carl.
stuff.
Mentioned Carl before.
Yes,
Carl is
his name keeps coming back. Yes, he's the best. He's great. Those are obviously key players here, but I also have a brain trust of awesome gamer, GM, publisher people in the Savage Worlds and outside of the Savage Worlds community that are constantly showing me where I'm going wrong, supporting me when I'm thinking I'm going the wrong way and I'm not. These people are, and I will miss people here are Calvin Thompson from Twitchy Butcher Studios, Brandon from Star Anvil, Tracy Sizemore, Tim Early. The list goes on, but these are people that have taken no less than hours and hours of their time to sit and talk to me and advise me on how to avoid pitfalls that they might have hit when they were coming up and doing things. So it's not without that community, without that community, we don't get successful new publications like this from small groups like me. You really have to have that support. If we were all competitive against each other, it would just be a toxic environment that no one would be a part of. So thank you to everybody that's helped me along the way.
Awesome. Right. Well, if you are interested in Beacon Island, I highly recommend checking out the Kickstarter. There's a link down below. And just for your benefit to talk about what you're getting inside the Kickstarter, I'm actually going to share my screen here just to talk about that briefly. I remove that. Gotta share my screen again. So here's the Kickstarter where I said, as you said, over halfway funded. Got 29 days to go. Got plenty of time. If you're interested in getting this, the first, I'm actually just go to the rewards section here. You can see what I've backed at just so mostly because I got the other stuff. So
Well, thank you.
So the first one is the day pass, which is just getting you the PDF. So if you're one of those people who for some reason doesn't like having shelves full of stuff like I do, you can get the PDF for $20. If you want to get the print on demand coupon, you can get pay $30. You'll get you a voucher for print on demand through Drive Through RPG, I assume, and that's going to be an at cost or base printing cost plus shipping to get you that once it comes out. If you're just getting Pete's other products, there's a few other levels that get you the Shadow Sacred Hills, the Cillian Hybrid, both in just digital and or in on-demand options as well. And then if you want to be awesome, there is one champion option left to be able to create. You can create an NPC, a townie, for this. Sorry,
for Beacon Island.
For Beacon Island. My brain just went blue for a second.
That's okay.
For Beacon Island, yeah. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to getting my print and demand copy. I personally like the stuff I've gotten for Drive Through RPG. I think it's pretty good. So I'm looking forward to getting that. I'll ask: have you decided on which print option that you're going to be doing it for, or are you going to offer all the print on demand options?
You mean
like hardback,
which format? So it's going to be the full cover, the full color soft cover 8.5 by 11 format. Yeah. Okay. So I don't have one of them sitting right here on the desk, but you guys have seen that, and that's the size my other books were published in as well.
Yeah, cool. I don't have any of your stuff physically, so this will be the first one. It'll be the first one I've got. I'll get physically.
Awesome.
So I'm excited. Cool. Well, again, if you're interested, please check the link down below. I think that I don't have anything else to say. So unless you do, I think we are ready to give everybody a good night, and thanks for hanging out. And until next time, we hope you all stay savage. Check out next week. We will have BPP Games talking about Savage Hunter next week. And then week after that, we got Travis Liege to talk about Scarlands. So got a lot of interviews coming up this next few weeks. So looking forward to that. Say bye, Pete.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Cheers.